I'm an Australian guy living here in Belarus, and you may ask the question, who is Belarus? Or what is Belarus? Or where is Belarus? Of course, Belarus is a fairly smallish country, and it is not very well known at all, and it's been pretty much shut off from the rest of the world for at least, well, most of the last century. It takes a certain kind of person to come to Belarus and to put his roots down for some period of time. And I say his roots because there's really no foreign women here. You do get some Chinese girls who are here studying, some African girls as well actually who are here studying as well, but I would say around 98% of foreigners here are men. And I would say with some confidence that most guys who are here fit into one of three archetypes. The first archetype is the adventurer. This guy wants to see things that no one else has seen. He wants to get off the beaten track. He doesn't want to go and be a digital nomad in Bali, right? He doesn't want to go and party in Budapest, right? He wants to kind of break the mold and have a really authentic experience, really get a sense of what a culture that is very, very different to his will feel like. Let me give you an example. I met a guy here who, I won't say his age and origin, but a fairly young guy from a Western country. And he lives in Sudan by choice. He came here to study. He was at my university for 3 months, maybe. So he studied Russian here while studying something else online. And before this, he had been, as a student, to North Korea. He studied in Pyongyang. Could you imagine? So this guy just wants to see the world. He wants to see a different world, right? Because we all recognize that a lot of places are just kind of becoming the same. Yeah, there's not much point in even traveling to a lot of countries if you're interested in culture, because you just won't get a different culture there. So you get this kind of adventurer guy, and he could also be a little bit of a Soviet file. Yeah, he could be into the ideology, he could be into the economics, he could be into the architecture and so forth as well. This kind of guy is also floating around. The second main archetype of men that are here for a long period of time in Belarus is the political guy. And this can take many, many forms. So let me give you an example of this. As I say, they do come in many archetypes, but one political guy is definitely the anti-COVID restriction guy. And here's an extreme version. I find this example to be absolutely hilarious. Now, these two guys, I won't say where they're from, but they're from Europe. And these two guys, young guys, early 20s, and they wanted to avoid taking the vaccine, right? The first rounds of vaccine. So what they did was they forged a certificate, a COVID certificate. And now this is not particularly unusual. You can go to Ukraine and get forged certificates for $50 any day of the week, right? It's not that controversial. But they somehow forged it. And then what they did is that they left their country on a Sunday, because they knew that the clinic where they had the fake certificate allegedly from would be closed on a Sunday, so that if the airport guards, border patrol, had a sense that it might be fake, that they couldn't call up and check if it was real. So they let them on the plane and they said, look mate, I'm going to be calling this up tomorrow, and if this is fake like I think it is, I'm going to be here waiting for you when you get back, right? That's what he said to this guy, the young guy. And then these guys came to Belarus. Pretty funny stuff. But anyway, so you get this kind of freedom guy, he's worried about freedoms. Then you get the cultural guy, and these are often American guys, often young Christian guys who are here in Belarus because they believe that the social values of Belarus are better than the social values in the West. So these political guys are quite common. They tend to be younger, they tend to be more likely to be in their 20s, but also older guys dabble a little bit in these ideas as well. The third category of guys here are what's best termed as sex pest or sex tourist. And these guys can be from anywhere in the world, typically from some parts of the world. They come here looking for transactions to pay for certain activities. For Western guys, they tend to come here to look for kind of free and easy sex. What's kind of curious about these guys though, more so the Western guys, is that they come here and they typically get very disappointed and leave fairly quickly actually. When I first came to Belarus late last year, this is what I saw, guy after guy after guy coming in, looking for lots of girls, and they're not really getting anywhere doing this. and typically going off to maybe Odessa or Kiev. One went to St. Petersburg, and I think the other one went to Poland. But it was like this kind of conveyor belt of guys entering in. Oh, it doesn't work here, let's go somewhere else. And then since, of course, the current situation in Ukraine, we've had quite a few come across the border and come here as well. And well, most of those have left also. So these are the three archetypes of guys that come to Belarus, and these are not just Western guys, obviously, but from all around the world. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click like, because it actually does help me. And if you're a subscriber, I do appreciate you subscribing to my channel. I hope you enjoy my content. If you have any ideas or suggestions for me, I am more than open to hearing any of them. If you're not a subscriber and you've made it this far, all you gotta do, man, is move your finger, that red subscribe button. Good news, I have a little bit of B-roll footage coming at you. Now, just as I've started here, it's just kind of started to rain a little bit, and I'm really too lazy to open up the weather app, so I'm just gonna roll with it for now. I'm gonna go for a walk. This is Yakuba Kolossa. Below us is Yakuba Kolossa metro station. This street here is Prospect Nezavisimosti. Down there is Kamarovka Market, and this is Northwoods. I'm gonna walk northwards. Let's see what we find. I'll do a little bit of a talk to you as I walk. Do a mixture of talking, not talking. As I say, just a little bit of rain today, but I see a bit of blue there. Where there's blue in the sky, there's some hope. So hopefully this dirty big cloud here can move off somewhere, and we can enjoy the day. Evraopt is a well-known kind of medium-sized supermarket chain here. You might know this place. McDonald's McCafe, it's real. You don't see a lot of retailers here in Belarus that are Western. You see lots of Western products, but not the retailers. But definitely McDonald's, KFC, and to a lesser extent Burger King have really penetrated the market here. It's kind of funny to see. You see McDonald's here, and then you see Zoom. Zoom is this whole building here is like what the local youth call it the Soviet shopping center. It's a government-owned shopping center. I really like it, to be honest. It gives you a lot of, pretty much, if you need something, it's going to be there, right? I just bought a strainer from there, some bathroom scales. They've got everything there. It's like it's like a department store essentially, and I've been there many times since I've lived here. We'll walk up a little bit more. Yeah, the rain's just lightening off now, which is good. You can see here, just as I walk, I'll talk about these statues in a moment, but for now I'll talk about some of the discounts. Look at these discounts. So 35%, 35, 30%. So the whole store becomes like 35% off. So obviously they put the prices higher for the rest of the year, of course, for the rest of the week or rest of the month, should I say. So you can see there, the first one on the 21st and 22nd of September, which is today and yesterday, 35% off on anything that costs 7 rubles or more. So take that. So everything in there is 35% off. But as I say, obviously it means that the normal prices are probably a little bit higher, right? Because in reality, a retailer's profit margin is going to be maybe 10% or something like this. So they can't just put 35% off, kind of obviously. But that's the day to go in there. On the other days it's pretty empty, but on those days, so if we went in today, we'd probably find it's pretty full. I'm going to do a couple of videos, actually, walkthroughs of Zoom. In fact, you know what? Maybe I'll do it now. No, I won't. I'll do it a different day. So I want to go hat shopping now. I want to buy a bear fur hat. And I want to let you guys come with me when I buy it. So, we'll keep going north. There you go, Burger King. Crazy, huh? McDonald's, Zoom, and Burger King. And in Zoom you get like a lot of the stuff that would have been available for purchase back in the day. Patient, that guy. And then you get Burger King again. Burger King. The Children's Hospital that way. And here we got, so these are all for 2 rubles. So the sign says. Oh, see you later. 2 rubles. 2 rubles is not even $1. exchange rate, as it's been for about 3 or 4 months now, about 2.53 rubles for a dollar, 2.5, 2.53, 2.55. Although, of course, it's not exactly a market rate, but it's the rate that we get every day. And the buy-sell spread is really, really narrow, actually. So you can buy and sell for like 2.5, 2.53. So the buy-sell spread might be like 0.6% either way, buy-sell. It's actually pretty impressive. Nice efficient market, even though, as I say, it's not actually the market rate, but it's been very stable at that level for a while, so you kind of know what you're getting at least, I guess. Mark Formel, very famous Belarusian retailer. And you have MaxBet. So this is Gorny Club Bar. MaxBet casino. A lot of casinos here in Belarus. A lot of casinos. You probably know that they've been pretty much banned in Russia. I think they've got one in Russia. So a lot of Russians come here to gamble. Here's another one. Casino XO Club. And a lot of Chinese come here as well. Of course, Chinese will often go to Macau for their gambling needs. They also come here to Belarus. So you get a mixture of mainly Russians and Chinese rollers coming here to spend some money. I was having a conversation the other day about whether or not government should ban things. And the one topic up for discussion was cigarettes as a starting point. And that was kind of true, because cigarettes here are cheap, man. Cigarettes here are like 1.5 rubles a packet, like 60 cents a packet or something. And, you know, you start to think, well, it makes it very affordable, you know? And is that something you want to encourage? But then I guess the tricky part is if you start to ban something, where do you stop with your banning, you know? Where do you stop? Can you ban something else? Because you know what's coming soon, the banning of meat will no doubt come soon. It's getting quite heavy. I'm just going to go under, get some cover here. No, it's not as much covered as I thought it was going to be. Let's try in the coffee shop here. It's our best bet in the coffees. I might even get a coffee. Get a coffee and wait this rain out. All right, back again. Yeah, so if you ban cigarettes, for example, which look, it probably wouldn't be a bad decision to ban cigarettes. Like on the net positive and negative thing, it's probably not the worst decision in the world, but yeah, you do open up the potential for this kind of thing to go, you know, mass market. Okay, let's ban anything. Phones, let's ban cars, let's ban motorbikes, let's ban anything, right? So once you start banning one thing, this becomes an acceptable way of dealing with something that maybe someone in power doesn't like, right? So it's a bit of a problem, be it banned or not. And where this conversation came from was all those casinos, because casinos are, you know, you can make an argument to ban casinos as well, right? They're not exactly a social good. They're not producing anything other than kind of hormones, emotions, energy, feelings. Maybe we might start walking again. It looks like it's just kind of dried up a bit. All right, let's go for it. Yeah, you can make the argument to ban casinos as well. I can see that argument. But again, if it's casinos and cigarettes, what's next? Meat? Maybe flying by planes? Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you don't want that to be an acceptable way of doing things. Let's just ban this. Ban it, you know? So anyway, in saying that, we do ban hard drugs in the West to some extent. Obviously they're pretty illegal here. You wouldn't want to be caught with something here, that's for sure. Alright, so we're kind of somewhere between Yakuba Kolossa Metro and Akademia Navuk, which numbers 118, 119 if you want to follow along on the metro map. That's where we are, halfway between Yakuba Kolossa 118 and 119 Akademia Navuk. There's quite a bit going up along here actually. There's a few universities up here. Here's another, looks like casino. Looks like the way. These are everywhere, uptakers. There's obviously a pharmacy. You'll definitely notice nice wide footpaths. There is a designated bike lane here as well. This can happen from time to time. I'm a big fan of this because one thing that's kind of weird here, like as I always say, Belarusians are big on social etiquette. They're very civil. They're very civil people, but on average. But when you get people riding the bikes and the scooters, like, oh man, it's so dangerous. It's like kamikaze stuff, really. It is. Watching some of these e-scooters and bikes being ridden within centimeters of people just walking along, you know, it's pretty crazy stuff. But nonetheless, here there is an actual bike lane which is being used. This is good news. Coming up to the hospital here, there's a massive medical area. Chances are if you book into some kind of government specialist, there's a really good chance it'll be around here. I actually had one mole off my face burnt off. It clearly wasn't cancerous, but it was growing at an incredibly rapid rate. They had one on my arm, which was changing shape and changing colour rapidly. Like these things, the one on my face went from nothing to a full-size mole in 2 months. It's like, where did this thing come from? So I burnt that off, and then the one on my arm I was worried about because it was turning kind of half creamy colour, half brown. So I had that cut out. Just had to do a bit of a test on it for me. So then getting up there in years, and you know, coming from Australia, European skin's not made for that kind of climate, you know. Plus that big hole in the ozone layer. So as a kid, you get pounded with that SunSmart message. You know, just be safe, get it checked out. That's the message we get, and that's definitely got to my psyche. So I thought, just test that thing on my arm, and they did, and it was all very fast. The oncologist here, I got in very quickly, and it was the whole process was done in about 2 weeks. Very professional, very fast, very efficient service. It's not a part of the world that's known for medical tourism, but look, it probably should be. I've heard nothing but positive things from foreigners using things like dentists. I also went to a gastrologist, and this dude knew his stuff. He's great service, really understood what was happening, and was very professional, and he could have milked me easily, but he didn't. So yeah, I'm not sure other than those 3 kinds of services, I'm not sure, but so this is kind of the medical region here. These are the medical buildings there on this block. One thing you will notice if you're here in Belarus, that's controversial. One thing you will notice here in Belarus is that people don't jaywalk. And that's partly to do with their high level of social etiquette, partly to do with probably copping a fine. But it's not uncommon. I know in Poland it's kind of the same actually. I was surprised the first time I ever went to Poland, I noticed the same thing. And I was surprised how strict people were, because I was under this loose impression some time ago that, you know, Eastern European countries are a bit wilder than Western European countries. So I was surprised how much social etiquette there was there, and why people were not just crossing the road when there's no traffic. Because in Australia, that's kind of what we tend to do. We tend to just cross the road when there's no traffic. Just maybe check there's no cops around and cross. But I got fined for this. Not that long before I left Australia, I got fined for jaywalking on the street where it was actually blocked at one end, so he couldn't actually walk, and I tried to negotiate with the guy, but he was just going to fine me no matter what. So here in Belarus, I think the police do tend to fine you for jaywalking. I've heard a couple of stories of this, well, 3 stories I've heard, and 2 of them the guy actually talked his way out of it, just by reason. I kind of like the way they do that here, through reason. So for example, my friend who the police tried to fine him, and he was crossing the street. So he crossed the street, he took off the footpath onto the street, and it was like a flashing green, right? Flashing green signal for him to walk. Halfway across, it turned red. Okay, cool. So he goes up on the footpath. There's a policeman there. He's like, "What are you doing?" You know, still delayish. And he's like, "Oh, look, I know it's red now, but when I crossed, it was green. When I left the footpath, it was green." He's like, "Well, how do I know that?" He's like, well, of course, because if it was red when I crossed, the cars would have started. And the cop's like, oh, that makes sense. It's on your way. Have a nice life. Kind of interesting way of doing things. I mean, it might happen like that in many countries, to be fair, but yeah, I'm just a bit shitty about my experience in Melbourne, where the guy gave me an $82 fine, 82 Australian dollar fine. It's only about 55 US or something, not even. The current exchange rate, maybe, yeah, something like that. No need for tears. So I reckon we must be really close to Academia Naavuk. No, we're not actually. It's still around this bend. You can probably see there a nice KFC. These things are everywhere as well. So in only 8 minutes of this secondary footage, we've seen a McDonald's, a Burger King, and a KFC. And down there's a theatre. If you ever want to go down that way, down that street, was my finger. Down that street, if you want to go down that street, there's a theatre, and there's a couple of Thai restaurants actually, which are not too bad. Fairly tasty. Just two, I don't know why they're there for, just two random Thai restaurants. We're getting very close to Academia Naavuk. Got a really good feeling about this green light, and I reckon it's going to go green really soon. Everyone's waiting patiently. Let's do it. It's funny in New York. One of my memories of just cultural differences, one of obviously a lot. One was how New Yorkers would just anticipate the light turning green and just start walking. And half of them are across on the other side before it even goes green. It's that real New York state of mind, you know. Billy Joel song. That intensity in their lives and wanting to get from A to B as quick as possible. All that kind of stereotype, which is pretty true. So there's a theatre I was talking about before. Kino Theatre. You see the writing there. Scooters are absolutely everywhere. Actually, a guy commented, I think I did one of these B-rolls some time ago, and I commented how that in Australia, or at least in Sydney, a mate of mine up there told me that they've banned these in Sydney. Just because it's kind of too dangerous to be on the footpaths. And in Australia, like the pavements are not like this, right? Like it's a car country. So the public transport's generally quite weak, and the infrastructure for any other than cars is quite weak, right? So sidewalks are usually pretty narrow. So a normal sidewalk in Australia would be just kind of here and to maybe there. That's about it, right? And then maybe some grass, usually some nature strip, a couple of trees. Be looking nice, but yeah, not made to take volume of pedestrians, bikes, whatever. In fact, in Australia, you have to ride the bike on the road, in theory. Whereas here in Belarus, you don't. You can ride on the footpath. I've never seen anyone riding a bike on a road before here in Belarus. So yeah, in Australia, or in Sydney at least, maybe the rest of the states too, or cities too, I'm not sure, but apparently they're banned, and I can kind of see why. I mean, they are dangerous as, I mean, just the way guys here swerve in and out, like I'm surprised there's not more accidents, but nevertheless, it's a hard one, isn't it? This kind of regulation. Where do you stop the rights of the individual? Where do you stop the harm they might cause? But here in Belarus, I can see why it's kind of legal. As I say, there's a nice wide footpath. It's a lot safer. Also, the quality of the footpaths are very high. The infrastructure is kept in very good condition, which means that it's very safe to ride them, just in general. It's not like a third world country where you've got this broken footpath everywhere, and you literally just can't ride them because the footpath's too hacked up. But here's Academia Naavuk, 119. You see this little pathway down here. That'll be down to the metro there. And on that side as well. It's always very systematic. You just kind of know that there's one there and there'll be one on the other side. Like, you just know every street's kind of structured the same. Every metro exit is structured the same. It's not just kind of winging it, whatever. You kind of know how the setup will be from looking at previous stations. Looks like we're going to miss this green man. What I might do is say goodbye for now. It's been nice chatting to you. If you have any comments to make on any of the topics that I've kind of chatted about today, feel free to give your ideas below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Any ideas for videos, do let me know. If you like the video, do give me a like. It does help my video in the algorithm. And also, if you're not subscribed, do feel free to subscribe to my channel as well.